The Tank helmets, while we don't have them at home, they're at the office. We are still representing with the Tank, and so are the Philadelphia 76ers after falling
Louis
to the
tanking down there. You see him?
Louis is tanking too as the Sixers fall 105-91 to the New York Knicks. Louis has had so much Sixers content this season that he has just simply decided that, you know what, I'm taking a nap for this one tonight. Coleman Potts, mission accomplished. Igavini, we have to keep this up. Guys, gals, I don't think you have to worry about them hopefully keeping this up. They are that bad. But welcome to the PHLY Sixers postgame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll get to the player of the game a little bit later. A tankathon spin of the night. I'll do that with Derek and Rich, not here. And we'll also do our normal roll call. Ace Hardware temperature check at some point too. Kyle, 105-91. Not only is it the second time this season that they've had their season-long ninth consecutive loss, they are now 23-53 and 30 games under 500 following this loss to the Knicks.
Devon, that was a rough one. I just
yes, it was.
From the very beginning, it was a game that you felt had no juice, right? And I think you could feel that, hear that at MSG, right? Like there are a couple moments where they got fired up for the one Anunoby N1 on the dunk. People got a little into it, and certainly I'm sure throughout the night it got a little bit exciting in there. But by and large, my takeaway watching that game was like, man, could you have imagined in the middle of that playoff series last year if I had said to you, the Sixers after this offseason are going to sign Paul George, they're going to sign Caleb Martin, they're going to get the breakout guy of the Olympics in Yabusele, you're going to draft one of the best rookies in the class, Maxi's going to average 26 a game or 27 a game. You say all these things that happen or are going to happen, and a game against the Knicks in April, 2 weeks before the playoffs start, is just completely irrelevant other than for tanking reasons. I would have been like, buddy, I need a time machine. I need to see what happened. I got to go back in time like Kyle Reese and Terminator and figure some things out and save some people, because what the hell is going on? It's about what we expect at this point, Devon. And I think that's the sad and the disappointing thing, is that long before you and I and Derek, Rich, and Bree, and everyone else, Tyler tonight who's along for the ride, long before we got to this point of, we look at the roster, we know what it is, we know what we're signing up for every night. But long before that, we sat here on pregame, postgame, daily shows and said, you can't expect this team to beat anybody. They just have not shown the chops on either end of the floor. And so it's really disappointing that we've gotten to this point where we're pushing it every day, 1 foot in front of the other to get to the end of this season. And then if you're religious, you get down on your knees and pray, you cross your fingers. If you're not, like whatever you want to do, and you just hope that the lottery balls bounce your way and salvage something from this godforsaken season. It has just been brutal from start to finish. There's been very little optimism, very little daylight at any point. And you just look at the box score and it's like, they shot 6 for 31 from three. They were, what were they? I think at halftime, they were like 3 for 20 or 4 for 20, maybe something like that.
It was 4 for 20.
4 for 20 time. So they went, it was an improvement in the second half. They went 2 for 11. Well, I'm doing my math. Actually, no, that was not an improvement. They got worse. They had a 20% shooting half and got even worse. So
they got worse. Yeah.
I respect the guys who are out there and trying to compete, right? Like I think in that third quarter, you saw a team that they tried to throw some different stuff at the Knicks. They junked them up a little bit. They raised their pickup points higher. And so the Knicks down to DeLon Wright and a rookie and Tyler Kolek as their point guards, they struggle with that a bit and they get back in the game. But we know, Devon, we know how poor offensively this team is, how talent strapped they are. So every run they go on is just the inevitable, the rubber band effect. It's like so video games and sports games have what's called rubber band AI, where if you get too far up on it, the game basically just starts cheating. That was a feature of Madden, certainly back in the day. It's the reverse for the Sixers. It's like whenever they get a little bit close, the other team's like, nah, screw that. Yeah. and that's what it's like watching this team right now.
So I was just looking at some of I went back and I made sure I was correct with the 9th consecutive loss for the second time, because they snapped it the last time, and they didn't reach the 10-game losing streak. And I went back and I was like, damn, that's a lot of L's there in the red. Let me count. And I went back and they're 4 for 26 in their last 30 games. 4 for 26. And as you pointed out, everything with the offseason, Maxey in his 26, and Yabusele coming in, Jared McCain looking solid as a selection from last summer's draft, and how things, even with the question marks, you're like, oh, okay, Jared McCain's playing pretty good. Once those other guys come back, that's an extra piece, and so on and so forth. But then after a while, as you pointed out, once we really started to watch these plays, like, these guys can't beat anybody. They had the great month of December where they were 9-3 for the 12 games. Paul George had a really good January, but the record didn't reflect how good he was. And you couldn't get Joel on the floor consistently enough. And there was just never any continuity there with this basketball team. And we would discuss Nick Nurse's role in everything. Why are you playing these veteran guards over some of these younger players? You need some infusion to this lineup, and those guys are just not doing it. And as you said it, man, not only sitting in the office with you guys and Bree and watching the game, then we talk about it. Me and Rich with Bree watching it, we talk about it. Sitting here at home by myself watching the game. Nobody else wanted to watch the game with me. So I'm by myself watching the game. And like, damn, this is bad. This is really, really bad. We knew that they were organically bad. You didn't need any help from any other way. They were bad. But sitting here alone and watching the basketball game and taking my notes, you know what else I started doing? Oh, let me put this away. Because let me put this over here. Let me put this away while I'm still able to watch the game and take the notes. And then to your point of, they cut the lead to 4. OG Anunoby gets a dunk. Mitchell Robinson gets a dunk, whatever it might be. And the crowd is going crazy. But then you also hear a lot of silence in Madison Square Garden. I've been to the Garden a couple of times this year just because of course, you know, it's hard to take that crowd out of it. It's hard to take that crowd out of it. The only way you really do it is when the other team is destroying you. But the other team was so bad that New York was matching their energy, but they're so good and the Sixers are so bad, it didn't matter, because it was inevitable, as you pointed out, that you make that run to cut it to 4. They're going to run out of gas, and then the other team is going to eventually pick it back up to have a 10-0 run to ultimately turn it back into a comfortable lead for that particular team. This is very boring now at the end of the year. Our exciting part of this is all going to come down to when it's done, we reflect, and we start to really focus on, can they keep that pick? The luck of the draw, the religious part that you just talked about, all your superstitions that you have to have your basketball team keep a lottery pick and keep Derek's sanity, because he said he needs the number 1 pick really in his life at this stage for his happiness. This is really, really bad now. And look, we have 6 games left. Jess said 4 and 26 is diabolical for the number that we just laid out there. Kyle, they are 30 games under 500 with 6 games to play. We're normally talking about the record being flipped. Yeah. And no way in hell did I expect this season. None. Even if you had questions about Paul George, it wasn't going to be this. It wasn't going to be this.
Yeah, it just felt like they were better insulated against this type of season, right? That even if you get a disaster Joel Embiid season, even if Paul George is banged up for most of the year, You're going to have Maxey. You got some veteran wings. You got, Drummond as a hold the fort type center. You have Bona as a rotational big that, we had low expectations for, but at least is someone who can play a little bit. But then, Caleb Martin is hurt for a while. You invest way too many resources in small guards, in Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry. And even McCain, right? McCain was very good, but contributing to some of the problems you have, at least defensively, by putting these small lineups where it's three guys who are 6'3" and shorter on the floor at a time. Even if you have Wemby back there, that might be the only guy who's capable of holding together these lineups. And as we get to the end of the season, we're still seeing some of the same stuff. Some of that is because when you're picking guys off the street and signing G League players and just rotating through 10 days in two ways, most of the guys who are available, who are there for a call-up, are going to be smaller guards, right? But tonight, I believe they had a lineup on the floor at one point of Kyle Lowry, Jared Butler together as a backcourt. And then I want to say Lonnie Walker might have been one of the other three guys on the floor.
Well, first, Kyle, Nick Nurse subbed Kyle Lowry and Jared Butler in at the same time. So there's that. Yes.
So he and we don't have to do a Nick Nurse relitigation show because we've done plenty of those this year. But it's also man, they've died this way so many times. I don't need to see them die this way. I understand Kyle's going to play. Lowry's going to get in the game. And frankly, I think some of what we talked about pregame, Navon, the setting up Adem Bona early, a little bit of the pesky defensive stuff, he showed that stuff tonight, right? He still can't move. He's still 39 years old, and he played 16 minutes and scored 0 points. That's a pretty big problem for an NBA rotation player. But we are so deep into this terrible season that I have to look at Kyle Lowry making a hit ahead to Adem Bona, who ran the floor hard, and be like, oh, yeah, that's a nice play. That's a nice thing to have, because so much of the game is spent on just disaster offensive possession, bad transition defense, layup on the other end, repeat, recycle, and that goes for stretches at a time. It went from a 5-point game, right? 5-point game, 7-point game, something like that in the third quarter, I believe.
4.
4. Okay. So it got as close as 4 points. And you're like, oh, man, maybe the Knicks just are not going to take this seriously enough. Maybe they squeak this one out. And then they go back up they were up by 23 or 25 in the fourth. They end up winning by, I think it was 14 was the final margin. But was not contested basically at all, because the Knicks just ran them out of the gym when they tried. And it really, I understand we have leaned into it a ton, right? And ultimately this loss is a good thing for what we're hoping for, what I think the organization needs, which is another injection of young talent. And even if they don't use that pick, Devon, we talked this week about trading. If it's 5 or 6, what would you do with that? Trade out, trade back, whatever it is, you at least have something. But to get there, I've used this analogy before. We're like Andy Dufresne crawling in the sewer pipe out of Shawshank, just man, I sure hope this rock gets me out, because if not, I'm stuck in the sewers for the foreseeable future until the cops and the warden come find me.
That's a great way to put it. And I even see Rashid said in the chat that, hey, man, this has been a nightmare of a season. It has absolutely been a nightmare of a season for this basketball team, for the fan base to have to endure this after so much goodwill that they put together in the offseason. Even if, again, you did not like the George move, you still felt the team had something. And for it to turn out this way is just really unbelievably sad of how this season has turned out for this basketball team. And here we are. As you said, we're trying to get to that 5, top 6 pick and see if they can keep that and have the great night of lottery night. Vince is in here, our GM, and Vince is telling people we're having a lottery party. Yes, we're supposed to start promoting and let everybody know, the diehards only, that we're going to start putting it out there that we're going to have a draft night lottery party on May 12th. That's a Monday night, I believe, for the lottery, and it will be at our office for the draft lottery. And we hope that
see if you can put your name on the Papa Shot leaderboard.
Tough sledding there, everybody. but we'll see how it goes. But hopefully, many of you diehards, if you haven't already signed up, make sure you sign up. So if you want to join us for our draft night lottery party, that you can in fact do that, joining us on May 12th for the lottery, and see if the Sixers' luck falls their way, maybe with the #1 overall pick. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what we saw some in this game. I do have a question for Kyle when it comes to Adem bonus, as we discussed the lottery stuff. We have the temperature check for Ace Hardware that we'll get to, player of the game, daily tankathon spin, and much, much more right here as the Sixers fall 105-91, losing their 9th consecutive game, 30 games under 500 at 23-53. This is the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. At one point during the game, I saw Quentin Grimes attack the basket, finish, then he falls on his wrist. I'm a partner right now with Rothman Orthopedics. So I've done that myself. Tore my wrist up by falling and trying to brace myself on the floor or on the concrete after going to the basket and taking a spill. So what do? Immediately you had flashbacks, and it makes me think about Quentin Grimes. Hey, my man, I'll send you to Rothman Orthopedics, the great people at Rothman, because at Rothman they practice in specialized care, and that has been their passion for over 50 years. The mission: high quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research that leads to new treatments and better outcomes. They have doctors that are laser focused on their specialties, which are hip, knee, spine, ankle, shoulder, maybe wrist. And you name it, they have a team for each body part right in their backyard. So you can cross over the defense, train the jump shots, take a run around the track, and maybe go to the gym, lift some weights, and do all the things that you need to do to get your body right for the summer. All of that, and root for your teams like no other fans in the country. They are Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. Patients will find the full spectrum of care, of course, with the orthopedic care at Rothman Orthopedics. They also have, and proudly serving dozens of communities across Pennsylvania and New Jersey with 30 plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country at over 60,000. So if you are in need, you need to be looked at, tweak something, joints aching, back out of whack a little bit, Rothman Orthopedics, they specialize in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
And guys, we have another friend to tell you about that also fixes things. It's just not the human body. It happens to be your home. That's Ace Hardware Home Services. You've got a leaky pipe at Ace Hardware Home Services. They're around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person who can do the fixing. You have an air conditioning issue, they've got a person for that. You got a faucet that you said you'd fix last fall, they've got that person too, because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long at Ace Hardware Home Services. They bring helpful to your home, the helpful you love, from the store, now to your front door. And let me tell you guys, as a homeowner, you don't realize it when you're a renter. You don't realize it certainly when you're living under somebody else's roof, that they're responsible for all the big things that go wrong. You need people in your life who know how to take care of business. That's Ace Hardware. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Sixers lose 105-91. Let's get to the Ace Hardware temperature check right now. You know what? Let's do that right now. Ace Hardware temperature check. And it's heating up, cooling off with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your very next project. Cooling off, and they have cooled off. I just ran it off. 4-26 in their last 30 games under 500 now after this loss.
Mr. Freeze is what I would say right now about the Sixers.
Their second 9-game losing streak of the season, which is the season long. They have a chance to extend that to 10 on Thursday back here in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia 76ers are Mr. Freeze when we talk about the temperature check and super cooled off. We just ran through so much of that in the opening segment, discussing where this basketball team is. Not one individual player. It's just this basketball team with a 30-game under 500 season with 6 games to play. And all of us just simply waiting for the season to come to an end so we can start talking more about the draft lottery and prospects and what they might look like for the Philadelphia 76ers. That has to be, Kyle. We go through all these different places with players and even went to the Phillies starting off 2-0, the first 2 games against Washington. And here we are. When you drop 30 games under 500, you've cooled off a long time ago, as you said, Mr. Freeze. But man, they deserve they have cooled off dramatically, big time.
Yeah, and we talked about it pregame, Devon. Quentin Grimes, great example, right? Like he box score wise had a fine game, and I don't think he played poorly tonight. But the difference between this team being competitive and this team being what it is right now is that he's 1 for 6 on threes, and his success on pull-up jumpers in general has kind of gone off of a cliff recently, right? Because the transition stuff, the off-ball cutting, the plays at the rim, he's still doing a good job finishing and getting himself there. And I think he was an integral part of that third quarter run and some of the different successful stints they had during the game, right? Like he's playing either aggressive point of attack defense or stepping into passing lanes as a roamer, like did a really good job. But when they have so little self-creation talent, when it's a bunch of guys that have to play east-west, side to side, swing the ball to create successful offense, when you do have a guy who's a downhill player, teams are going to swarm that guy. They're going to force him into tough shots. And then like tonight, he's got to go against combinations of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and like good defensive players who that's their job, right? Like they can score and they have stepped up in bigger offensive roles as Brunson and Cat have gone down with different injuries. But by and large, their reputations are as guys that they carry their cards as defensive guys. And so Grimes is getting the toughest guy or the toughest multiple guys basically every night. You add on that Mitchell Robinson comes back tonight. That adds rim protection around the basket for the Knicks. I believe he turned Grimes away on at least one shot in the third quarter, I believe. So it's just like even the guys who have been cooking a little bit, the guys who have been sustaining the offense, the guys who have been making them look at least semi-respectable at times, there's only so much you can do. Like I do feel for these guys. Some of them, you're happy for them that they have an opportunity that probably wouldn't be there otherwise. But it cannot be fun to lose 9 straight games, win 4 out of your last 30, and just watch everything just go down the tubes. Because even though this is a prove-it opportunity for them, even though this is like, hey, I can put some stuff on tape, you'd like to have an opportunity to put stuff on tape when you don't have to be the focus of the other team's scouting report, right? Some of these guys are players who'd be best suited as like, and this is not like end of bench players, guys who are getting in at end of games, guys who are coming in next to the stars as other role players get hurt. But everybody's hurt. Everybody's down and out right now. And so when you have to overextend, some of your worst habits come out as a player. And so it is a double-edged sword for some of these guys. I was happy for Marcus Bagley. I thought Marcus Bagley had a good game, was a force on the offensive glass, scored some cheap ones in the first half when, frankly, they couldn't hit water from a boat. So you better crash the glass and try to turn in some second chance points. Happy for Alex Reese. But, like, you go down the list, and it's like, man, you got to hold on to a guy who was like 3 or 4 from the field, took 4 shots. That was a good story tonight. That says it all, man.
No, it really does. And just to wrap it up, that was our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your very next project. So, I was looking at the numbers for Grimes for the first half. To your point, as you said, look, I mean, he's as the lead guy, he's been doing really, really well, really, really well. What we talked about at pregame, where probably should have got some, just at least some votes, and that's a great accomplishment for where he has come from, what he's doing right now with this bad basketball team, to average 28 in the month of March the way that he did. In the first half, though, to your point of the defense that was thrown at him by the two wings for New York, 20 minutes he played. He was 3 for 9 from the floor, 0 for 4 from behind the 3-point line, with 3 turnovers and just 8 points, Kyle. He was working, trying to get something going against those two guys. They were smothering them, and they knew they didn't need double teams. They just had single man. That's your assignment. Fight through the screen if you can, especially when it was those two and they were setting the screens. They just switched immediately. You just pass them off, and that's what New York does anyway. But for those two, to your point, after Grimes, what? Yeah, Jared Butler's had a good stretch here for a couple of games. Okay, Justin Edwards has been really good, but as you pointed out earlier, he was bound to have a bad game the other day, and it's just because of the amount of minutes that these players are playing at this stage of the season with a 48 game in front of them and 48-minute game in front of them. They haven't done this. They don't know what this feels like. Grimes may, but no one else. Even Yabusele, he hasn't been there to do that in years since he has been overseas and not in the NBA. So that's where you look at this and just say, man, you do feel for those guys. You honestly do. But having to watch it on our end, yeah. But them to have to play it, know they're probably going to lose that game that particular night. Understanding what that feels like as a player, that's a tough thing to have to go through, knowing that you really have no chance, especially against a team like New York, or even when they battled against the Houston Rockets. They were up by 20 plus points in that game, and they eventually lost it in overtime just because Houston turned it up. They actually had to find, all right, let's play some basketball, and the Sixers had it going that night, and they did what they did. But yeah, this is a tough one. That's why we had to give them the cooling off for just the season in general, just the bad season that they've had. Grump 856 says keep the tank alive. Absolutely keep the tank alive. But guess what, Grump? We're grumpy because we have to watch it, and it's a bad watch.
Right.
It's a bad
Nobody
watch.
has been more pro tank than the people involved with this show, right? We've been wearing tanking helmets. We've been borderline celebrating after these, like just saying and telling our people who are actually still rooting for wins, right? That just they understand the lottery implications and just can't bring themselves to root for like I get that, man. Like you don't want to come home from work, turn on your TV, you're trying to unwind, you're trying to do something that you enjoy, watch basketball, and have to enjoy it through the lens of, boy, I hope this team I love loses, right? Like that's a horrible place to be in. And I think the thing that we're all sort of holding on to right now, that the reason this tanking stuff is such a prominent conversation, is like, this is such a dramatic departure from what they've been recently, right? Like they said it on the broadcast tonight. It's the first time they've been swept by the Knicks in the season series since the year they won 10 games, right? Like every season after that, they have the season right after that is Joel's rookie year. They certainly were not like a super competitive team at that point, but there was at least like, hey, this is the guy that you're building around, and you're starting to see something come to fruition. Then Ben Simmons arrives. Then you get some reinforcements. You get JJ Redick, and you start bringing in these role players, and you're basically churning out 50-win seasons every year. And so the fear that you have to have after this season, given where Joel's health is at, given where Paul George is at on the age curve, is you have to look around and say, is this going to be the new normal, right? Like, will this be the last 5 years that you experienced with some ups and downs, certainly, but at least like a reasonable amount of regular season success and expectation to go deep in the playoffs? You could be a team that just lost in the wilderness, right? And so that's why you hold on to the tank. That's why you focus so much on the draft and the prospects and what could be, because you get that one more guy, right? Like a talented young player versatile player, someone who fills a role, whatever it is, and you bring back Jared McCain, you get year 2 Justin Edwards, you get some good luck with either Joel, Paul, or both. Maxey figures some things out as a playmaker because he's now dealt with essentially like a season and a half of lead guy without Joel, and it's him and a bunch of role players. And then we can start to feel good about this basketball team again. If those ping pong balls don't bounce the right way, man, we're going to have to be doing some real soul searching and looking to see what exactly can these guys do, because PG and Embiid trades are not likely. So I'm willing, and in fact, I embrace the idea of suffering through these games with and for the people so that all of us can enjoy this basketball team, even when they're not playing this summer, right? So we can have more fun discussions, and so we can go into next year hopeful. And one last thing on that same point, as we're talking about how tough it is on these guys that are out there, I do think, not that you want him to be hurt. It'd obviously be a better world if McCain never suffers that knee injury. I'm glad that he has not had to go through this just months-long, dreary stretch of misery, right? Because you want to talk about a kid who has just never really experienced losing, plays at a big-time program, was a huge recruit, come out of a huge basketball state, right? Like, well, huge sports state in general, but like 5-star recruit, wins everywhere he goes, and is helping them in rare instances win the very few games they've won this year. Him getting to kind of avoid the feeling of, man, I just have no chance to win these games every night.
Yeah.
That is a little bit of a blessing in disguise, that it has hurt our enjoyment of watching the team, but in a weird way, for his sake, I'm almost glad that he doesn't have to go through that.
Yeah. Not to mention, if he was playing, Kyle, we may not be talking about the top 6 pick, because he might have won a few of those close games because of his heroics and how good he was playing and getting those extended minutes and all of that. So, yeah, man, you're absolutely right. You don't want to have him go through that. Even though he's sitting there, he's on the bench, he's a part of the team. He's not on the floor physically dealing with it. He can rehab, watch, and get
do
ready
his
for
TikToks. He can just work on his league fits profile, like
get it right.
All the fun
Get
stuff.
Get it right. Yeah, absolutely right, man. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, everybody. We'll come right back and we'll keep it going as we discuss the Sixers losing their 9th in a row. They fall to the Knicks tonight, and they got it close in the third, but it really wasn't that close. It was a 10, 12 point lead pretty much all evening long. They had a nice run to cut the lead, and that's what it was. We'll come back. We'll talk about more. I saw Citizen X did a Tankathon daily spin, got the #1 overall pick. Maybe we just have to leave that there. I don't know, but he will certainly change some things. Cooper Flag. We'll talk about it when we get back right here in the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. And with Bet365, folks, had my pregame picks. Karl-Anthony Towns decided to sit. The number was 13.5. They eventually adjusted it to 13. And the Philadelphia 76ers still did not cover, right? So they lost by 14.
Uh-oh, Devon. I think your mic went out, buddy. I can't hear you anyway.
Even when
there you go. There it is.
AirPods drop off, you still make sure you make the right selections when it comes to Bet365. And we did that a little bit earlier. I still told you, even though Towns was out to take the 13, they lost by 14. And if you decided to put Mitchell Robinson in the place of Karl-Anthony Towns, he had a double-double, 14 and 14 tonight. So Bet365, very, very easy to navigate through, very easy to work through. The games that were played on Tuesdays, if you bet on NBA Tip-Off Tuesday, you place a qualifying parlay bet totaling $20 or more on any NBA game on Tuesday night. You get $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. You get early payout offers with the NBA and the NHL. Live pioneered in-game betting through Bet365 that has over 90 million users worldwide. So if you have not yet signed up, we've been telling you for a long time, please do. And breaking news from Bet365, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Win or lose. Sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5, get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app once again, and you'll be all good. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And now it's time for me to not have my mic muted, right? And talk about our good friend at TrueMark. Guys, it is Financial Literacy Month. I've got something that's going to help you off the field, teaching your kids how to handle their money. If you're a TrueMark financial member, you've got a fantastic opportunity to help your kids and teens learn to earn, save, and spend wisely with a free Greenlight account. Now, Greenlight isn't just any app. It's a game changer for your kids. Whether they're setting savings goals, learning how to track their spending, or even getting their allowance, it's all right there at their fingertips. And get this, each kid gets their own debit card. They can make purchases, learn how to budget, build real-world money skills, while you can still stay in control from your phone. You get the peace of mind, and they get the chance to make some responsible and maybe smart choices with their money. So if you're looking for a way to teach your kids some financial plays this Financial Literacy Month in April, I can't recommend this enough. It's like training for life's biggest game. So head over to truemark.com/greenlight. Get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Sixers fall by 14 to the Knicks. That's now 9 in a row. 23-53 is their record. They're 2 games back now of the Brooklyn Nets. Full 2 games back with 6 games remaining on the season. Let's get to a couple of super chats here that we have, Kyle. Number one, let's start with Davon, aka Schoolboy Beats. Non-Sixers related, but a temperature check. He was heating up. Steph Curry and the win over the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 0-4 since they fired Taylor Jenkins. Good job, guys.
50, you figured out the problem. It wasn't him.
50 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals for Steph Curry as they beat the Memphis Grizzlies tonight on the road, by the way. And doing that, he made 12 of his 23-point attempts. So you talk about heating up. Steph Curry, we've seen this before, but every time he does it, 52, pardon me, is the final number there for him. Outrageous.
He is a madman.
Every series they're going to have a chance because he can do that. And now you have Jimmy that you look at him and say, can he get you one game? We've seen Jimmy make sure you get to the finals carrying the teams that he had. So he might be able to get you 2 games in the series. Yeah. Steph Curry can do that in the series and help you out big time.
Well, I believe right now we are on course for Lakers Warriors in round 1, which if you are a television executive, boy, are you rooting for that one. LeBron versus Steph in the first round. Jimmy Butler bringing his element to it. Luka, like, oh, come on, man. That would be must-see TV. And those, I mean, they've played a decent amount in the playoffs, obviously. Just Lakers Warriors, but Bron versus Steph has just been a constant for most of our recent basketball lives. So, yeah, Steph, I said it, I think, at one point earlier this year, right after the deadline. I have now understood, after watching the Warriors a lot this year and watching them before the Jimmy trade, why so many people in Golden State were like, get this guy some help, right? Which it was funny because a lot of the online Warriors fans for a long time used to make fun of the LeBron people for being like, get LeBron more help, right? Like, and so I get it, right? It's all in fandom and everyone's taking their different pot shots whenever. But when the shoe's on the other foot and you're like, man, Steph's in his, final years of his best basketball he can play, get this guy some help and get rid of some of these bozos on the team. Get him a real guy. Well, now that he has Jimmy Butler to shoulder some of the responsibility, play some two-way basketball, offer some playmaking and some, ball handling ability, you can really see that has unlocked Steph, or at least it reinvigorated him for sure, at the very
Yeah.
least. But I think it'll also prove in the playoffs when the game slows down. We've seen what Jimmy Butler can do in those situations. So the fact that it doesn't have to be, 50, 10, 8, 5 Steph for them to win and to win important games, he's going to have big games, right? He's Steph
Yeah.
Curry. But I think the fact that they've been able to take some pressure off of him, that bodes well for them, whoever they play in the playoffs.
100%. 100%. We'll stay with Davon. He has another super chat in here. Maxey like Curry, after his fourth season, should focus on shot creation and ball handling. That's literally what he lacks to take him to the next level. Speaking of Tyrese Maxey, what do you think?
So, I mean, largely I agree. I think there are still times when, if we focus on the ball handling, where Maxey goes a little too much east-west and doesn't trust whether it's what hand he's using and going left, right? Like when he goes left, he generally wants to get to his step back. And I think there needs to be more confidence shown from him, but more ability. But I think those two things are intertwined. More confidence in his ability to beat guys off the dribble going left and finishing at the rim with his left. And we did see that in some spurts in January where he had his best month. And I thought the offensive versatility was just the best I think it's ever been for him, between the mid-range, going both ways as a driver, step backs, threes, catch and shoot, whatever. That helps complete the picture for him. I'm not a guy who generally believes that, like, you can increase your assist numbers, right, as you get older. I don't think lots of guys become markedly better playmakers as their careers wear on, right? Like a lot of the guys who have great vision, that's something that you see when they're in high school, when they're in college, when they're young players. And it's not to say he can't be like a competent lead guard, right? We've already seen him do that. What we have seen, though, is that he needs the anchor player next to him to really be that high level playmaker, right? That as a number one, granted, a number one that's missing the other option, right? So if he's the number one and you have a guy who's healthy, who's there with him all the time, who's also like a $50-60 million player, we'll see. That has not been his life that he's lived here in Philadelphia. But I don't know. I'm just not expecting a big playmaking jump from him. He might have more assists, and he does a generally good job of keeping the turnovers down. But I think one of the things you look for in those young guards are guys who are almost aggressive to a fault.
Yeah.
Because you live with the turnovers early, and then they figure out over time through repetition, all right, I can make that tight window pass. I can hit that skip pass over the top. And while we've seen him do that in spurts and in flashes, I don't know. I just don't think that's his game. And it doesn't need to be, right? If he can be a 25-point scorer as an off guard and you figure out the guy next to him or someone around him that you find that playmaking, that doesn't really matter. He's good enough at other stuff. But I agree with Davon. Those are the two things that would take him over the top more than anything.
Yeah, and the playmaking part, I wonder how much of him sitting down now for these last few games and just watching and dissecting and having these last couple of years without Joel on the floor, where he's just reading the game maybe differently. Now he has to get out there and execute it and actually do it. And we've seen, and what we talk so many times about, young point guards coming in the league. They play for bad teams. They're allowed to make mistakes, and eventually, the problem is solved. His issue when he has had Embiid off the floor, or even this season with Paul George off the floor, is the expectation is still, can you get us to the playoffs? Other smaller and young guards, or just say young guards, there are no expectations. It's 25, 30 wins. You add another player next summer. And in this case, though, he's still asked to score and assist, not get tired, and then lead you to the playoffs and hold your head above water until the other guys get back. So that's where he's been. And he's done a really good job of doing that. Made an all-star team, had big playoff moments. And now year 5, where you have another year older of both Embiid and George, question marks, big question marks, like big red question marks for both of those two players coming back with him. That's why this draft pick is so important, to have that other guy, maybe to grow with him. Maybe it's McCain, who knows? Maybe it's Grimes. But if you get Flag or Harper or Bailey potentially to be that guy with him to help carry and shoulder some of that load, when those other two older guys now may not have it and cannot do it, his playmaking, of course, will be helpful, but his scoring is still going to be so valuable to the basketball team because that's how good he is at that. Yes, the shot creation and all, especially going left, his explosiveness to the basket where, no disrespect to Curry. Curry is just not as explosive at the rim as Maxey has been, and not even as fast. Curry's always been fast or quick. Maxey is fast and quick, and that's maybe the difference, that he can use that to his advantage when he does create for not only himself but for his teammates as well. So good point, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot this offseason too, of how that may mesh, how that may fit with a prospect that comes in, and even with McCain and Grimes now in the mix together, if they're able to keep Grimes in the offseason. Riaz says, Kyle, honestly, what's your take if they don't keep the pick? Do you run it back with a healthy McCain? And we really have no choice but to run it back at that point.
I mean, I just don't think you have tons of options, right? I think the only exception there would be maybe there's a team out there that they're willing to take a gamble on Paul George. Like, I'll give you an example. Maybe the Sixers get screwed in the lottery, but let's say a team like Utah gets screwed, right? That's a team that has not been good for a few years now. They trade Gobert, they trade Mitchell. They're clearly rebuilding. They, from moment one this year, have been locked in on tanking and trying to get Cooper Flag, or at least put themselves in position for Cooper Flag. Imagine they get jumped by several teams and they end up in, like the 5th or 6th spot. I think 5th is probably their floor right now, unless something really crazy happens. But so let's say they end up at 5 and they don't like the options there. They might be looking like, I don't know how antsy they are. I don't know that they wouldn't say like, hey, let's cobble together some of these salaries that we have, that some of these guys are on big numbers that are not in our long-term plans. Maybe we'll just acquire Paul George. He's a good wing. You put him next to Markkanen. You have some of these other young pieces. We'll see if we can. And it's also a franchise that, like, they are well aware they're not getting guys by signing free agents, right? They have to trade for guys under contract, or they have to draft them and hope that they can sell them on being there long-term. It's just not that type of market. So now convincing Paul George to play in Utah is a whole other story entirely, but it's just one example, right? Like, if they're put in this position where they don't keep the pick and there are a bunch of teams that jump up, you have to look at who else that impacts and who else might look at it and say, we're willing to take a chance on this guy. Because otherwise, it's probably a situation where you're going to have to pay to get off of him. And what should have been learned from this season, where they had to make choices about tanking because of the protections on this pick, is you should not be giving stuff away, meaningful stuff away, to get off of Paul George's contract. If you have to eat like another lost season next year, the fans don't want that. None of us want that. But if that's what you have to do to hold on to these picks and give yourself future opportunities to make real moves, to make positive franchise-altering moves instead of just like dumping guys and moving stuff around, that's what you have to do. Because Joel's not going anywhere. Until Joel can prove that he's out there and can stay healthy, and frankly, I don't think he can ever do that at this point, right? Like, even if he has a full healthy season next year, is anyone going to believe that's sustainable, or are people going to say, hey, that's a fluke, it's the one time it's going to happen? You're connected to Joel Embiid for the foreseeable future. So unless you're willing to move Maxey or move McCain, there are not a lot of chess moves out there. So you got to hope for this pick.
100%. 100%. The other big question will be the Grimes piece, the Grimes factor. How much are you willing to give him in the offseason? How much are you willing to match? Should somebody throw a crazy number at you and try to play that game and see if you're willing to go that far on a Grimes contract as well? Citizen X asks, If there's anything you can do in the offseason, regardless of improbability, what would you do first and second?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. If you're saying regardless of improbability, you fix Joel's knee entirely and you win the lottery and take Cooper Flag. Easy.
First and second.
Call it in. Commissioner Silver, I'll take 2 of those. Although maybe, I mean, if we're saying anything, like regardless of improbability, I'm trading Paul George for like Wemby, and I'm trading because you can't do that. So number one, it's CBA illegal. Number two, they would never do it. But I'm trading for Wemby, and I'm
go
trading
get Shea.
for Shea. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Title contender next year, baby. We're set.
Since the next, we got it covered, man. No worries.
But so if we're saying, hey, maybe it could happen, possibilities.
Yeah.
Cooper Flag, win the lottery.
That's number one, because that's the most realistic thing. That's staring you right in the face. Yeah, right in the face. Yeah. So that's number one, and number two would be to stay in the top 6. That would be number 2, to stay in the top 6, to get a young talent or the potential, like we talked about on yesterday's show, to maybe move that 5 or 6 for an existing player right now in the NBA. We appreciate everybody for all the super chats. Let's get to our player of the game for tonight. We haven't talked about him much, so we'll give him a little head nod here. Might be his first one. Little Adem bonus with the player of the game. The numbers
Adem
don't
bonus.
stand
That's
out.
a deep cut at this point. People who are not paying attention in the middle of the year are not going to be locked in.
The numbers don't stand out, but his effort, again, just out there. And Mitchell Robinson had his best game of the season for the New York Knicks, starting in place of Karl Anthony Towns. But Adem Bona really just went out there, left it all out there on the floor. He did pick up 5 personal fouls, so this is the first time in a long time we've seen him have to deal with foul issues. But it wasn't really a problem tonight. They weren't going to win the game. He did all he could. He battled on the boards. He led the team with 8 rebounds in 31 minutes and 41 seconds. He had 3 block shots in this game as well. So we thought he was worthy of the player of the game tonight, despite Quentin Grimes' 27, 26, whatever he had to lead the team in scoring. Just another good thing to believe in this kid and be happy about, where McCain doesn't have to deal with it. This is a second-round pick that we had a lot of questions about that has really shown that he can play in this league.
Yeah, and I think tonight showed what he has to overcome at this level, but also why I think he will probably have a long career in this league, right? So on the negative side, a lot of what we expected to be a problem for him with the Mitchell Robinson matchup was a problem. Mitchell Robinson had, I believe, was 7 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
And the size advantage that he had was leveraged, right? And Adem is finding out the hard way that at this level, when you're asked to protect the rim and contain guards and the pick and roll and do all kinds of things around the rim, when you have to do that and go up and get the rebound after that, that's tough. And it's a lot tougher when you're at a disadvantage size and strength-wise, right? But I think on the flip side of it, if you're looking at the positives, he plays so hard and runs so hard that as a rotation big, he is just going to run past and run away from guys in transition to the point that he could probably get 6 to 10 points a game just sprinting down the floor, right? And what he did tonight was, I'm beating my guy down the floor. I don't care if it's Robinson. I don't care if it's Precious Achiuwa. I'm going to race that guy and win down the floor. And the Knicks were forced to take fouls. Now, he did not have a good night at the line tonight after having a good stretch there. He was 4 for 4 the other night. I believe he was 3 for 6 at the end of tonight's game. I'd have to know, 3 for 6. And that was disappointing. That keeps him under double digits scoring-wise. But, that's a fixable problem. That's something we're already seeing him get better at in the macro. And so I'm very encouraged by what I've seen from him. And I don't think guys with his athleticism and his instincts and his motor tend to fail in the NBA. I don't know that he has a super high ceiling because of whatever his limitations are, but that's he is a long-term NBA player, and I think they got a good one in the second round.
Yep, I agree with you. So, Adem Bona, player of the game for us tonight, brought to you by, as always, no one here on the show. All right, let's get to the this is my job tonight, even though Citizen X, I think, is the one who pulled the lever on the Tankathon spin earlier in the show, got the #1 overall pick. I'll give it a run here and see what things look like. And Kyle, Philadelphia 76ers on my spin. I'm never doing it again.
Uh-oh.
Number 7.
Oh, Devon, no.
Number 7. Brooklyn gets the #1 overall pick. Yeah.
Can we make Tyler do it? Again. Tyler, can you do a Tankathon spin and tell us in the private chat what you got? Because Devon just blew it for everybody. That is awful.
I did. Yeah, I did.
I'm about to start booing you on our show.
Citizen X did get it earlier.
Tyler did a spin. 6.
What did he get?
They kept the pick.
6. Keep it.
He did just better enough. In the future, Tyler, you spin instead of Devon.
So Derek's off tomorrow. Somebody else is doing it tomorrow. I'm not.
We're making Bree spin it tomorrow because you know my rule. I only do one spin the day of the lottery.
Exactly. And we'll do that on draft lottery night for the party live with the diehards only in our office. And we can't wait to see everybody there. Yes, Purple Heart, I ruined the spin. I'm not allowed to spin, revoking the right to do so. You're absolutely right. Hey, folks, make sure you go read allphly.com for the Eagles Top 100 and Kyle's recap. And, of course, Rich's daily newsletter right there at allphly.com. Go sign up, become a member.
And as Devon mentioned earlier, I believe it's not up on allphly.com yet, but it'll be up there, I think, in the days ahead, sometime soon. We are going to have a draft lottery event for our diehards. So we'll all be hanging out, talking about the draft, doing some kind of live show, but mostly an event to talk about prospects and gather everybody the night of the lottery so we can either celebrate or commiserate together. So hope to see you guys there. We'll have some more information for you guys on that fairly soon.
Yep. One more super chat before we go, and that is from Davon again. I just feel like if Maxey is going to be an undersized combo, he needs Kyrie, Iverson, etc., or at least a CJ level of off-the-dribble shot creation next to him. Just Davon's point. No, I mean, listen, understood. See how those work. The only problem is Kyrie is the only one that won a championship. Yes, Iverson got there. CJ and Dame got to a Western Conference Finals only for the Portland Trailblazers. So we'll see how it all plays out. But
wish we could have gotten more Maxey and McCann this year to at least get a glimpse of it.
No doubt. So we'll be back tomorrow at 3. We want to thank everybody for hanging out. We'll get to the roll call in a second. Our show tonight was brought to you by Bet365. Make sure you download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus, physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's get to the world famous Tuesday night, April 1st.
Gonna be a quick one, you April Fools. Thank you, everybody, for stopping through tonight. Thank you to Gavini, to INS, to Remo K, to Bootzilla, to DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman.
Bring me a dream.
Citizen X, to Sixers owner Josh Harris. What's he doing here? Mellow 3-point. My girl Winona.
Mellow, my man.
I think Mom's grandchildren is probably in here because she always is. What up to Mom? What up to Rose Nyland? The Golden Girls are here, baby.
Golden Girls are back. Golden Girls are back.
I saw several super chats tonight. So shout out to Davon. I forget. We had Riaz with the super chat. Kyle Wright was here. Yeah. Who else was on our super chats tonight that I'm forgetting? I'm blanking right now. Jake M coming through. You better love somebody, love somebody, love somebody. As Devon loves to say. Thank you to everybody. I promise we just have to get out of here, so I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I love you all. Jay the Jungle, especially. Even if he's not here. That's my man. Hit the subscribe button. What's up, Purple Joaquin Heart from Cherry Hill?
Joaquin.
Jess is here. Love you all. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. Hit the thumbs up to say thank you to the producer, Tyler, tonight. Tyler stepping in for Bree, who had a well-deserved night off. until next time, guys, we'll be back. Devon and I again tomorrow, 3 p.m. Wednesday. See you then.
See you.
We all silly like the mayor.